Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. Dan Lust and a guest this week, Zach Hiller, the founder of LAA Sports, Music, and everything in between. We're going to talk to Zach about his background and really how he built out his kind of sports and entertainment portfolio. That being said, show sponsored by Themis Bar Review, top bar prep company in the nation. I know people are getting their bar tests results back soon. If you didn't use Themis, you should use it next time around. Themis, if you need your discount code, you know where to find it. Okay. With that being said, let me introduce Zach. So Zach and I now probably go back about 5 years. Zach and I met on, I don't know what law school symposium it was, but this is why you got to get yourself out and about. You meet the right people. And, now Zach and I have, been in the I don't know. We've been working on different stuff for a number of years, but less about our work together. This call is mainly about Zach's background and spotlight on a career path that I know a lot of young lawyers want to go into. And I know those listening to this are maybe just some aspiring agents. So Zach made it happen. Yeah, without further ado, Zach, why don't you give us a little bit of what your current title is, and then we'll help unpack it with some of your early beginnings.
Well, yeah, first off, thank you for having me, Dan. Obviously, I love listening to everything that you have to say, the podcast, all your advice that you give me, even if I don't listen to it all the time. I definitely take it, into account when I make decisions. But yeah, so I guess I'm the CEO of LAA Sports and Entertainment. We have multiple clients in all sports, also in obviously music. Right now, I think we have 12 active NFL players that we represent. Then we have a bunch of, NILs are really big these days. So I have a bunch of NIL clients all throughout, college athletics. Yeah, I mean, how did we get here? I think it's like 10 years now, actually.
Well, let's unpack it. So yeah, you're being pretty modest. Music side, I know you're doing some work. Obviously, people, I think you're. Well, you can tell me if I'm wrong, and I think you're going to tell me I'm wrong. But I think people mainly know you from your work on the sports side, the NFL side, obviously, which you spoke about. Um, Zach, is it fair to say that the music is catching up to the sports side, or are we still a ways off?
I mean, I think it's very different, right? I think I did a partnership with this company Cobalt. They're incredible. They're the largest independent, music publishing company in the world. They actually just partnered up with, another publishing company, which I guess that company, Primary Wave, was considered a major already. So now, I guess Cobalt actually is a major, but it was like a $7 billion deal. So we made an announcement about that, and obviously, it was cool, to connect the sports and music world. I actually had Adam Schefter, post about it, which was pretty funny because I got a bunch of messages from like people that work in the sports business just being like, this is hilarious. Just essentially, obviously, that, I was promoting myself through the sports world for something that obviously, most of his followers wouldn't know anything about. But, I don't really know if I'm known or not known, whether it's in sports or music. I don't really pay attention to that, but I think we're doing a great job in both areas, and it's really cool. And I love what I do.
So, okay, you didn't think I was going to get this far back, but okay, you grew up not so far from me in Rockland County. I'm in Westchester County, New York, and you make your way to Michigan, sports management degree, um, and then you get your
Dan,
you get your
you,
MBA.
you no, no, I got my master's in marketing, but you're aware that I'm pretty against the sport management degree, right? You know that?
Well, why don't well, I actually did not know that, but I was going to ask you. A lot of people get the sports management degree, and they don't. It doesn't lead them to where you're at. So, I'd love to hear your views on this degree here because it looked like it helped you out, but you can tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, so it didn't help me out, is what I would say, right? Like I just happened to study sport management, and then ended up working, in sport management. Like if you're studying management because you think you're going to become an agent, that is completely like that. You're on the wrong path already, right? Now, if it works out, right? great, but I don't think that, you're getting an opportunity because you studied sports management. That doesn't happen. I always, kind of recommend, uh, really go to business school or and learn like accounting and finance, and then you can always apply that to sports. Where like when you study sport management, it's kind of the reverse. They kind of like teach, at least my program, they teach you like finance and accounting, and they use sports, but it's not as in depth as I feel. You know, you should learn it, and then ultimately, if you have the opportunity to work in sports, you're applying all of those principles versus feeling like I didn't learn as much about, finance and accounting as I wish I had, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
kind
there's
of just
like
limiting yourself versus
no,
versus being more broad.
no, I agree. There's a lot of people that get the sports management degree and they're all excited to be the GM of the Yankees, and they end up working, with all good intentions, with like in the ticket office for some
Correct.
stadium, and like it is a very narrow path, and like listeners of this podcast know that like I probably similar to you. We were, I went to Union College, it's a really small school. They didn't have sports management degree, or else I probably would have done it too. I was a philosophy major at a small liberal arts school, which has no path to working in sports. But then again, I worked for the Giants, and then I started building up my sports network in law school, and
Yeah, but
did work on
philosophy,
the yeah.
that's what people study for law school, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know. People study philosophy to do nothing. It doesn't really help you anywhere, but you had to get that advanced degree. So, I mean, like it's an advanced degree plus having a sports network, which gives you a better path. Like I don't, no one gives a shit about a sports management degree or even like I say this with a small caveat. Like some people get a sports law focus in law school, and it's like, yeah, like okay, it's great you understand sports law, but people need to know that you understand, just general transactions work, corporate work. That you're a litigator. Like there's really more. It's there's a lot more than just being a sports fan than like anyone's going to hire you for. Like just because you
Correct.
know
Exactly.
sports doesn't really matter.
Well, really, no one's really hiring you because you studied sports or anything like that. It's really who do you know? Like so when you go back to like my story, right, and you can kind of Google it, and there's an article about it, but I was lucky, I guess. Not, I mean, the way it worked out, I don't consider myself lucky, but I had an internship in sports, and we had a falling out, but again, you can read about it. And when I left there, I was just this Michigan grad, sport management, and I had my master's already that I got in 2 semesters in order to get certified as quickly as possible. And then I was working at this, agency, and I also had a letter of recommendation, essentially from Hall of Fame corner Darrell Revis, and none of the agencies took me seriously, and the reasoning is because I didn't know any of these people. I was just essentially emailing and texting and trying to connect, but I didn't know anybody, and they kind of all just didn't really pay attention to it. So it really always comes down to like, who do you know and how can you provide value. That's why again, I just think the sport management mentality of like studying sports, it doesn't get you to where you want to be if you want to do what I do on the agent side. I don't know how it applies to front offices or whatnot. I just, try to make sure people understand that that is not how you get to, I guess, where I am in the sports industry as like an agent.
So you started LAA Zach in 2017. Does that sound right?
Correct.
So we're almost at the 10-year anniversary of that. And, we've talked about Darrell Revis, some of the other guys that you've represented and still do. James Cook, Shamar Stewart, for a period of time represented Zay Flowers. We can talk about that. But I think for an agency, Zach, of your size, and you can I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Like you're punching above your weight. You're constantly in the mix for first, second rounders, third rounders in the NFL, and then on the music side, out of nowhere, Zach, you built up a very successful music practice. So what I think some people view as the path, which was definitely not your path. Um, like people want to they send out resumes, right? And I'm sure you did it too. You said you did. You send out all the resumes to all the established agencies. I sent out letters to every NFL team, every Major League Baseball team. And sometimes like you're just not at the right place at the right time. And there's no seat waiting for you at the table and you have to create your own seat. So Zach, in 2017, you hung up your shingle, you opened up your agency. Darrell is, I guess, your client on day one, or at some point after that?
No, no, no. He came about like probably like a year later, but my first client was Dalvin Cook. I
Wow. I
just
mean, that works.
yeah. Yeah, of course. Well, this industry I see is like a snowball effect where, once you do right by the right person and others see that, that's when, it kind of just goes from there. So I had obviously, an internship that didn't work out. And I happened to meet Dalvin in the last meeting that I ever was at during that internship. And we definitely hit it off. I mean, yeah, no, I obviously luck is where preparation meets opportunity. This was 2016, 2017, so I'm 24, and social media is not where we all live on social media. Everyone's making content 24/7, right? Like that wasn't the way of the world yet. But I obviously understood Instagram and Twitter. I actually created the blue check mark on Instagram. Did you know that, Dan?
No,
Yeah,
you're the
I'm
not
the create.
Zuckerberg.
No, I am the creator of the blue check mark on Instagram. I can show you all of the messages. So what actually happened is, so this shows you how changed the world is when it comes to social media. Zuckerberg did create the blue check mark, but he literally created it because people were impersonating other people, right? And he thought that like it would protect the individual, and so from like all the harassment and scams and all this stuff, right? But they did not see it as a like status symbol. You follow me?
Yeah.
Like it was when they implemented it, nobody in their office was like, this is gonna be a status symbol that people strive for. And that's what happened back in then. So when I said that I created it, what happened was is Darrell actually reached out to me and was like, why does LeBron have this thing next to his thing? And I have the email still. I emailed this person that worked at Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, we're just we're trying this out. We think it's safer for people like LeBron and like celebrities and whatnot." I was like, "Well, can you just give it to my guy Darrell? He's interested in it." And I guess technically I'm not the creator because Darrell saw it first. This guy just has like crazy vision when it comes to everything. But he was like, no, no, no. If LeBron has it, make sure my account has it. So they took care of it for Darrell. And then similar to me, getting the Twitter account deleted for Dalvin, I got his Instagram account verified. So he was like the first college football player to have that. And then that was kind of like part of my recruiting when I like was going to try to sign other players. I was, getting them verified on Instagram, and it became a status symbol, and it was like very important to these guys. And like that's kind of, just me thinking forward. And I don't think I've actually ever told that story, but yeah, like so I started getting all these like college football players verified on Instagram. And it's actually even funnier because this is classic. uh, there was concern that it was a benefit. And being that this was back in the day when colleges were, legally robbing these kids, right? And anything an agent did was technically a benefit. One school, it became a big thing under the radar. I probably still have all the emails. They got pissed that I had got this kid verified and thought that he was going to get like suspended and all this stuff.
I mean, at some point, you got to use your connections to make shit happen, right? So,
Well, that's all I
no,
did, right? I just came up with
yeah.
ideas for how I could differentiate myself and how can I get in, in the right place and how can I provide value? That's the thing, right? It's how do you provide value? If you want to be an agent and you want to get into the industry, it's all about how do you provide value.
So that's 2017, Zach. So we're almost again at the 9 year, right about probably almost 10 years, obviously, of the growth of the agency. But Dalvin Cook is a monster, right? We talked about James Cook. That one's not rocket science how you got into James Cook. But Zach, for I guess people that don't know, how many like we'll say employees, W-2s, interns, like how many people work at LAA in some way, shape, or form?
Right now, I'd say I have about six that are part of like my inner circle, and then we have probably around 15 to 20 interns that are all over the country. I would say I try to obviously have at least one to two people in every city that I have an NFL client in. And then, just with this whole NIL space, it definitely helps to have people that, want to be a part of the company on these college campuses, because that's like the biggest advantage I would say, is that if you did want to be an agent and you're in college, you have that advantage against someone like me, where you're around and you're on campus all day long. When I was in school, they were, when people found out that I had like an internship in sports, there was like a bullseye on my back. Like, it's like the school, right? I went to Michigan, like 40,000 students, but like the school, the academic, department and everything had put a bullseye on me. Like, everyone knew that I had worked at a sports agency for an internship. Stay away from him. Like, they couldn't come within 10 feet of me. You know what I'm saying? Now it's the opposite. Like, if I was there, I'd be just like taking every athlete, I could to, hang out and party and, become friends, and ultimately, then take that relationship to friend to, business partner.
So you do mention it, and hopefully I'm not saying anything out of pocket, but like, the recruiting of athletes at this level, right now, you have an NIL practice that you can, in theory, represent college kids, and then that you can foster that relationship and get them to the NFL level. But what is LAA doing, without saying anything proprietary or something crazy? But like, what is your focus at LAA at how to get the next guy, right? Be it a Shamar Stewart, a James Cook, like guys that are at the forefront of the NFL. What are you doing to identify that talent? I think we do this NIL agents. That's a very competitive space. You don't need to have. I know, Zach, you're certified NFLPA. You don't need that on the NIL side. Anybody, that's anybody, can just
Right.
walk in
Well,
and represent someone on a
yeah.
marketing deal.
Which is a good and bad thing, right? Because it's good because I guess, people that want to be in the industry have more of an opportunity, and you can get, I would say, quote unquote, lucky, and that's where preparation meets opportunity. You don't necessarily, right? If I wanted to be an agent and I was in college and I go to a school with a football program, you don't have to go and walk up to the starting quarterback if you don't want to. You can go to, a guy that you just have watched a couple clips on, and you're like, yo, this guy's special. Like, I could see something. And you sign that guy and you just build a relationship with that dude. And then you never know. That guy ends up making it to the NFL. He might have been the third stringer on your team, but somebody gets hurt and now he's the second string. Somebody gets hurt, now he's starting. Now he makes a great play. Now he gets drafted. And it's because you were with that guy, you made it. I'm pretty sure there's that whole story too. There's like an NBA agent who was repping all these undrafted guys, and he was treating his guys right, which is, I guess, what I would say is like what how LAA does is we just treat people right. And he got Steph Curry an Under Armour deal or something because he was taking care of his guy with Under Armour stuff, And I'm pretty sure
I think it
Jimmy
was.
Butler. What's
I think
up?
there was this guy. I know the story. Do you know? I think it's Kent Bazemore. They were
Well,
like,
well, that Yeah, well, that's
yeah,
how
they
that's
were.
how I did. So yeah, I think I combined two stories. So that's
I
how
think you.
that's
I,
that's how Steph Curry got with Under Armour. Is that Under Armour was sending the bench guy like all this
yeah,
gear, and he was like, "Wait, if they're treating him like that, how do you think they'll
exactly.
treat me?" And then I combined that with Jimmy Butler's agent was repping all these like G League guys, nobodies, but he was like with them 24/7, like hanging out all the time. And Jimmy was like, same thing. Wait, if you're gonna do this for this guy, what would you do for me? I'm a $500 million guy, and Jimmy hired him, and that was it. Changed his life.
Yeah, like, you know, in Tom Brady's agent, right? I think, what is it, Don Yee, like, was just
Yeah,
basically getting backup quarterbacks and lucked into a sixth round pick who became Tom Brady. So, like,
great.
at that level, if Tom Brady was a first overall pick, like, he's not going with all due respect to
Oh,
Don
he
Yee,
just
like,
went with he went with his
yeah,
Michigan guy. I'm pretty sure he was 41 years old, right? I'm 35 right now.
right, and I think I think he was a lawyer as well. Like, the point being, at the top level, like, if a guy has already been made and found and discovered and they're a top 5 pick, there's so much attention and competition for these guys' services. But if you get in early and you identify someone early and you show early on that, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the next level. I'm gonna," just like Zach, we've been talking about in this call, like, do go to the next level, use your network, get creative, and think of these big ideas, and you're there, you're present, you're loyal. Like, yeah, there's going to be, and we're not going to mention names, but like, there are going to be people that want to leave because they see the grass is greener, and they might think to go to another agency. But then there are still going to be those guys at the end of the day, loyalty, right? The name of your agency, loyalty above all. They are going to view your relationships that you had boots on the ground before there were 100 people trying to get their business, they're going to stick with you. So
Yep.
let's shift to that, Zach. So like you're now almost 10 years into this LAA era. You've redefined it in terms of the music space. You have the NIL piece, and you're in the mix for a lot of first rounders. We won't talking to some of the stuff, but like you've been very close on some very big guys, and it's just a matter of time before you get your next big fish. So what is this next phase of LAA? Like you've obviously got us, got the agency from one guy, right? And you have a handful of guys. You had Revis, you got Cook, and now you have 12 guys. You have NIL. Like what is the next phase, Zach? How do you take the agency to the next level?
When you say next level, I don't really know how to, I guess, define the next level, because it's kind of like for me right now, it's like I'm at the highest level of the playing field, right? Like I had the NFL rushing champion last year. He's my client, right? Like Shamar went first round. Like, yeah, obviously I want to represent the first overall pick, but first round is first round. So when you say next level, it's kind of hard for me to define that, but I'm really, trying to tailor my efforts and energy just into the right people. The industry is really changing rapidly because of NIL.
Well, let
I
me
think
let me rephrase it because it was probably a poor question. But like, if I asked you this 3 years ago, I don't think you would have said, "I'm going to create a music division that's going to
yeah, no, I definitely would
generate
not have
crazy
even
revenue."
yeah, I don't think I would have been able to say that, and that's why I don't even know what'll come across my desk and I'll see as a
Right.
as a great opportunity. I really have no idea, right? It's like, it's luck is where preparation meets opportunity. I was prepared for an opportunity in music that happened. And then just like anything else, right? Like you just put your best foot forward and make the best of a situation, and that's all I did. I just and then I once I also dive into something, like I think this is how anybody should be, is like I'm not like a half in type person. I'm either 110% in, or I'm out. Like I don't think twice, nothing. And I'm also very big on making a decision and then convincing myself that it was the right decision no matter what. Like I don't care. There's no second guessing. It's make the decision, and that was it. That was the right answer. Like, so I don't really know. I can't tell you what tomorrow brings and where the agency goes. I mean, I just want to work with great people and find great clients and keep it moving. I would like to go back to law school, truly though. That does interest me.
You've told me that a couple times, and you also tell me that you always agree when I give you advice, which is also not true. But you should not go to law school. That would be insane. But to each their own. So Zach, you didn't know I was going to bring this up. So the other part that I think maybe people don't know, like the reason and part of the reason we're doing this podcast today, I think you've probably more than most agents, you have an eye for like social and marketing and like having this intern program, and you're very accessible. Like I don't know when you started doing it, but I see almost every day you're posting something on LinkedIn. Um, and clearly it's A, to impart your wisdom, but B, just to show people like you think about the stuff in a meaningful way. So I'd love to hear about the strategy behind finding these posts and these stories that you're posting on LinkedIn. I think it's important, but maybe why you do this at your level at the agency.
Yeah, I think for me, it was more so I want to just educate people on the real of this industry versus the dramatized Hollywood side of like people thinking the agent title is like cool and whatever else, and completely ignoring, I would say, just logic, right? And I did it too. Like I didn't actually ever sit down and say, how do I build this business? Like, what is it going to cost me? What are my expenses? Like, I didn't do any of that. What happened with me was I was like 19, I guess. No, oh yeah, I think I was 19, and I had an opportunity to work at a sports agency, and transparently, I didn't even cross my mind. Like, I didn't, it just where I grew up, that was kind of like the thing. Like, because the agent was from my town, everyone else really was like trying to get an internship with a sports agency. They all thought that was cool. I didn't really know anything about it. And then I was throwing parties in New York City. I was making money being a party promoter. And it like obviously spread around my town. And I got approached by the agency instead. they were like where everyone else is like applying and trying to get this opportunity, and then it was brought to me. It was like, okay, this fit. So I will give him credit for that. He was like, he definitely saw like, okay, he has what it takes. Now it didn't work out, and his loss, but again, like I just kind of got involved, and then I just never looked back, and that's kind of why I'm doing these LinkedIn posts, is like to explain now what I've gone through and how the industry is changing, and don't get sucked into a trap. That's what I would say.
You had a post the other day on LinkedIn, Zach, about that lawyers, that not every lawyer like goes out and passes every bar exam in every state. Like, what would be the benefit to doing that? It's more about like who you know than like what you're doing in the particular space. So I had a young lawyer. He's probably 2 years out of school. He was telling me he was deciding between moving from he was either going to go to New York or Florida where there might be more opportunities, and he was going to take the Florida bar exam. And I said, well, like, what is the purpose of moving to Florida? Yeah, there's probably more opportunities in sports, but like, taking the Florida bar exam is a complete pain in the ass. Like, and you now, like, you're tying your success in sports to having that law degree, which you might not need. So Zach, you're someone like, we grew up in the same, obviously one county over. You obviously have had some thoughts about going to law school. I think as we kind of wrap this up, maybe some advice to, be it aspiring sports agents, sports lawyers, or people that just want to be around sports for their career. If they knock on doors and they try to work for NFL teams or existing agencies, this path that you did, where you just said, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own. I mean, it takes some real, I'm not going to curse, but it takes some real stones, so to speak, to do that. So the power and courage to do that, like I think it's commendable that you did it, but I'd love to speak for you to speak to that mindset that got you to this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, right? That's where it's like kind of like, I guess, you know, counterintuitive. Might I don't know what the right word is. I'm not a lawyer, but like I'm posting on LinkedIn, just trying to educate people, because if I had done the education, I don't think I would have done what I did, right? Like I did exactly what you just said. Was like, for me, it was a fear of failure. It was like I was in this internship. I'm in the sports world. Everyone thinks I'm so like lucky to be able to be in the sports world. And then we have this falling out. I'm just like on my own at 23, 20, 24. There's like a USA Today article about me, and how like I technically, from that first article, it looked like I failed, right? So I just had this like, all right, I'm not going out like this. But like I don't recommend that for people, right? I don't recommend you to just like do something to prove everybody else wrong, like I don't that's not like how you should start a business. Just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody else. But again, I think that if this is what you want to do, then you have to go for it. And I also want to just make sure people don't think that there's any real like anything really holding you back as long as you're educated. Like, and that post that you're referring to about the lawyers, it's more so that, barriers to entry scare people, right? Like, uh, it's a big thing. People connect the word agent with lawyer. You don't have to be a lawyer to be an NFL agent. You just need a postgraduate degree. And the whole point of the post was that if I have a legal situation and you're the best, I guess, family law lawyer, so you do divorce and baby mama stuff, maybe I'm probably not hiring you to represent me for murder. Am I, Dan?
Probably not.
Okay, so how did this whole lawyer thing become the justification for an agent? No, you don't need it. If I need a lawyer, I'm going to call a lawyer for that legal situation that I need. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all I'm going to like. I'm not going to just. There's not one lawyer that's just all encompassing the greatest at what they do, or in
I
that specific area.
I agree. I think I had a meeting earlier this week at one of these big financial institutions, and it's like, I mean, you could I don't know, you could check this, but usually it's lawyer, accountant, and then your agent, right? Like in some, and you,
Yes.
there's a fourth or a fifth, PR, whatever. But those are your main three, right? You want to have your agent find a deal to make your money. You want to have your financial person, your money manager, make sure they're growing that money, putting it in good places. Then your lawyer at the end of the day, whether you get in trouble on the criminal side or you need someone to look at the paperwork to get you to, make sure you're signing the right deal. Not that this interview is about me, but we do a lot of deals on the equity side, which are not really like they're complex equity arrangements that require some real like fine print. We got to go
Oh,
through
100%.
it's a lot of it's funny games, but like, yeah, your agent, it's a like a tripartite relationship. Everyone needs to help one another, and then sometimes, like, inevitably, you have someone, a client that, for all good intentions, gets in trouble, right? Like, and Zach, if you've had your fair share, as you alluded to, of like things that have happened that have required like some roundtabling on the PR level. Like, how do we handle this? What are we supposed to do? Sometimes that results
Yeah.
in a lawsuit or a legal type of response. And other times it's like, let's take to social media and lean into it or put out a statement against it. Right. And you talked about Adam Schefter, like you're very good at navigating the media. So those are your three main parts. And as I tell, people in my world, like whether they're on the talent side or on the agent side, the stronger your team is, the stronger you have different voices that will tell you you're right or you're wrong. Like, that's a real service to provide to your talent or or your clients, whatever world that you're in. If you surround yourself with a ton of yes men, it's not really getting you anywhere. And I think
No,
Zach's been pretty good putting a team around you that tells you right from wrong. But your instincts have generally been pretty good when we get into these battles.
100%. You definitely wait. It's definitely great to have a lawyer. I just don't think that this whole, you need a lawyer or you need to be a lawyer to be an agent. That's the whole thing. It's probably great, and going. I would love to go through law school and learn certain things, and I hear it changes how you think overall, which is incredible. I don't think that someone should let that hold them back. Is what I'm saying. Or
I'm with
like
you.
I think it's just dive in and then see what happens. Because like I feel like, and this is maybe going back to just how my mindset thinks is like if I go to law school to become an agent, when I am telling you, and the NFLPA is telling you, you don't have to, you're kind of planning for plan B. You get what I'm saying? It's like, I've never been a plan for plan B type person. I'd rather just go get certified as fast as possible, see if I can do this. And then if I can't, then I'll go to law school. Where if I go to law school first, it's like I'm doing this because I need that backup plan. And I don't know. I've never been a person that plans to fail.
Well, Zach, I think that's a good place to end it. So yeah, I mean, listen, this is whether you realize it or not. When I was saying get to the next level, it's like we don't know what that next level is, but I think you've answered it well. Like, you got to be prepared. You have to have the right team around you, and whatever that is that presents itself, you just have to be ready to lean in and trust your instincts that you have to lean in 110%. So,
Yeah, and also,
to be
Jen,
done.
just before we leave off, Adam is obviously an advisor to me and just like a mentor to me. I'll never forget like when Dalvin was at the combine. Like this is I guess 9 years ago, right? Like I just walked up to him and was like, hey, I represent Dalvin. I'm a Michigan grad, and he just like gave me a big hug, and then he just was like, hey, however I could be of help, and like so he's kind of always been there for me. It's just my guy. So I appreciate him, and that's just really, I guess why he obviously looks out for me too with the music stuff. He's just happy for me. So it's pretty cool. And find good mentors and find good people that want to see you succeed. That's another thing that obviously always be willing to learn.
Maybe we'll get that elusive Adam Schefter golf game at some point, Zach. But I'll leave that to you. So agree, mentors, and make sure, right? Like, Zach and I, maybe we got two rounds in. Maybe we'll sneak in a third one in the summer. But you also have to find ways, be it on the mentorship side, on the client side, however you want to do it. Like, find ways to show people that you're still engaged, you're still thinking about them, even if it's small tech. So, um,
100%.
uh, yeah, so it's all good. Zach, appreciate you having you on. You were fantastic, and love to have you on some point. We'll have some big story that requires an agent's perspective, and I'm constantly combing your LinkedIn to see if there's something, whether you realize it or not, that I need you on to talk about. I almost had you on to talk about the McAfee stuff the other day, but I didn't know, Zach, if you had the chops to go half an hour. Now I know you do.
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I enjoy this.
Okay, Zach, all good. Appreciate you, man. So that was Zach Hiller. He, again, is the founder and CEO of LAA Sports and Entertainment. So, yeah, a good conversation with Zach. I generally speak to Zach, when we're cooking on a case or something big, we're speaking a lot. And then sometimes there's not much going on. Like, Zach is very resourceful. Um, but every once in a while, there'll be some big picture, something that Zach needs some legal attention on. Um, but that, is a good story of someone that really, like, and we kind of alluded to it, like the doors weren't open to Zach. And it's not because he did anything wrong. Sometimes it's just, right place, right time. Um, Zach probably had the credentials from um, his like sports management degree or just his personality. And probably if he got in at the right team or at the right big agency, he wouldn't have the story he has now. So in my career, I've had the opportunity um, at a couple different times to be like on a team of 20, 30, 40 people. Well, like be on a law firm side, an agency side. Um, I'm not sure we have some new listeners here, but I worked for the New York Giants in PR, and I did that for 5 years, right after the first Super Bowl run through law school, and it was great. Like I enjoyed doing it, but it didn't feel like I had the level of control over my career and my path that I wanted to. Like PR is fun. I was working game days. I was in the press box. I was helping with the radio calls on the sidelines with the phones, like whatever they needed. But in the you're a piece of you're a cog in the machine, which is great. Like it's a great experience. But and some people spend their whole life at at a big shop, so to speak. So Zach's path wasn't that. Zach's path was he was going to be on his own and sink or swim on his own. So like the path wasn't there for Zach. He had to create his own path. And for those that know my story, fairly similar, although I'm the head of the sports practice at my firm. I don't really have any aspirations of opening up my own firm, which is a totally different animal. But Zach certainly has a big team to help him at LAA in the recruiting side, talent management. But yeah, Zach's been really building this from the ground floor. It's super impressive to see. So yeah, appreciate Zach coming on. Zach, if you want to find him on LinkedIn, where he's posting a lot, is ZAC Hiller, Zach Hiller. And you can find LAA. I have some former students that are aligned with LAA and a lot of good people under the LAA roof. So, yeah, pleasure having Zach on. And if anybody has any questions for Zach, you know where to find him. For whatever reason, you want to get in touch with Zach and you're having a hard time reaching him, maybe let me know and see if I can get him some access. But appreciate Zach. And yeah, that'll do it for us here at Conduct Detrimental. And we'll see you all next time on another episode of the Sports Law Podcast, Conduct Detrimental.